Well, it says we're live. Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. in Italy, 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in Australia, and it's Facebook Live. Oh, and in New Zealand, it's 3 hours later than that. So it's 12:30, I think, in New Zealand, and it's Facebook Live. Hello, hello. We had a little bit of a late start. There's always something, technology, but glad to be with you. And today we have, the two or the 1.5, one and 9/10 most important people in my life, right? He's not half, 9/10. 9/10, he's almost here. It's Marzi and I, and to talk about this pregnancy and what it's been like and how we have all the work we've done to create the result of Marzi looking so beautiful as a pregnant woman, right? Not a lot of extra water retention, no edema, no high blood pressure, no volatility.
Who has the volatility? I don't want to point.
Yeah. I think we'd start, we haven't talked about a checklist of items to talk about, but
Detox is it's on the top of the checklist.
okay.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, agreed. And so detox is at the top of the list. But I want to start with the trauma that we had to begin with, and that we were pregnant last Christmas and we lost the baby.
Not the baby, pregnancy.
We lost the pregnancy in early February. And it turned out it was a blighted ovum. And I didn't even know what that was. But a blighted ovum is when a sperm successfully implants into an egg. And when the egg first splits, one set of division cells go to creating the environment that baby will grow in. The other set of division cells go into creating the baby. So the environment the baby grows in took off, and Marzi's hormones went up the way they're supposed to. The pregnancy urine test was positive, and we were really excited. And but baby never developed. It's a blighted ovum, and I was shocked to find out how common this is. And one OB-GYN told us over 50% of women go through this. And I was startled because I've never heard anything about this. And, people keep it quiet. They don't talk about it. It's like it's an embarrassment or something. And in my opinion, it's like having acne. It's not something that we consciously chose to do, but something that happened. Unfortunate, and it was really emotional for both of us and at the time. But I just want to put it out in the open. This thing happens, and there's nothing that we did to cause this. There, as far as I know, it's just that egg wasn't right. Nature said, nope, this isn't going to work the way that it wants to. Now, for anyone who's watching, if you have experienced this, or if you know of someone who's experienced this, would you give us a thumbs up, or a comment or two? Because for most people, if I've never heard of it before, I think it's not very commonly known. So then after that, the very next month, we discovered that we were pregnant again. After Marzi's first cycle came, we were pregnant again. And of course, we were thrilled and scared, both. But we didn't do anything differently, I don't think.
No, I had a specific craving.
One day Marzi says, I'm really craving a gin and tonic. And I went, what? Have you ever had a gin and tonic? And she said, no, maybe I'm pregnant. I said, okay. So I put my shoes on, I went to the store and I bought a bottle of gin and I bought some tonic, and a lime. And, that was in March when we heard about when we were all living with this new threat of a virus. And so that's when I learned about tonic water and how helpful tonic water can be to support your immune system. And so
exactly. That's why I started to looking for the answers.
that's right. That's right. And so we had tonic water most every day since then, without the gin, without the gin.
Well, we had with gin, but then we did the test, and then we stopped
Right.
having the gin.
Right.
But
Right.
we didn't. I didn't believe I'm pregnant because for me it was like too soon and too good to
Yeah.
be true.
Yeah.
Because we tried for about 2 years, not like maybe religiously because we travel a lot, but it took us 2 years to get pregnant in the first place. So
I'm going to close the door.
it was almost impossible for me to believe that we are pregnant already next time after 1 month. But we were. So we had the first ultrasound at 5 weeks, just to see the heartbeat, just to make sure the baby's there. And he was there. After 7 weeks later, at 12 weeks, we knew that he's a boy. And then we started to gathering the whole team and making sure what else we can do to keep the non-toxic environment. Thankfully, we were already in Costa Rica, so the environment was quite clean. We made sure to replace all the water filters for the drinking water. That's pretty much.
Well, that's where we started, and we didn't have to make too many changes because we were already on the path, of living a less toxic exposure life, and so we didn't really do too much altering, but we prepared for years beforehand. Just kept detoxing, and if you've heard me speak before, I now believe that everyone needs to make detoxing part of their daily life for the rest of your life, because we're exposed to so many toxic chemicals that never before in the history of humanity have we been exposed to these kinds of chemicals. And we all have these chemicals in our body. When I first came out in practice in 1980, I used to give talks in the office, and we talk about, and I'd show the newspaper articles that said that morticians were using less formaldehyde than ever before because the bodies were so preserved because of all the chemicals already in the body. And so they were using less formaldehyde to preserve the body. And I started talking about it way back then, but it didn't really relate to me. I didn't think it related to me. Turns out it does. It relates to all of us. And so the things you learn about slowly detoxing are critically important. Got lots of thumbs up here. Let me do some call outs to start off with. Jamie's here from Washington. Steph is here from Missouri. Amal's here. Thanks, Amal. She says you both look good, or great. She says great. Thank you. Marzi, you look beautiful. May your baby be blessed. Thank you, Zarina. Cynthia says, hi, Dr. Tom and Marzi from Ottawa. Debbie's here from British Columbia. Praying they have you safe delivery and a precious baby. Dorada's here from New York City. Tracy's here. There's a horrible practice of reaming the umbilical. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what that is?
I don't know. So maybe.
Yeah, we're unsure about that one, Tracy. Omar's here from Germany. Hello, Omar. What time is it in Germany?
It's the same time.
Oh, it's the same time.
And
So
Europe time.
yeah, but it's 1 a.m. 1 a.m.
7
there.
hours difference.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Mike's here, says just joined. What's being talked about? Okay, Mike. We're talking about the journey of pregnancy, and our baby is coming in the next couple of weeks or days or anytime now, anytime. And so we wanted to talk about how do you prepare for this and what do you do? And so,
And how are we like?
and yeah,
What has been going on since the last Facebook Live that we talked about? Most of it.
yeah, good. Quincy's here from Iowa. Steph says her friend Karen experienced a blighted ovum. Janet's here from Cape Cod. Catherine says, I think one thing happened to my daughter at age 36, miscarriage with using the off-label pill instead of a DNC, next month, pregnant full term. Congratulations. Beth says, what kind of water filters are you using? If you go to thedoctor.com, we have the water filters that we've looked at. I looked at a bunch of them, and air filtration systems, chlorine shower filters. So we'll post the links here for you in just a minute. The staff will put those in. And don't forget about the chlorine shower filter. The place that we get more chlorine than anywhere else is in the shower.
Do you remember what type? Because we don't have them on the website.
Chlorine?
Yeah.
I've not seen a difference in the chlorine shower filters in their effectiveness.
So Amazon.
Amazon for that, because that's a simple, I think about $35, $40. You unscrew the shower head, screw the shower filter on, and then screw the shower head on the other end of the filter. It's really simple and easy to do. And I've not seen a difference in companies on that one. There may be. And to find out, when I want to know if anyone's compared shower heads with chlorine filters, I'd go to Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. They're the group that I trust, and they've done a lot of that kind of research comparing products and hidden ingredients in cosmetics, or the Dirty Dozen, the foods with the most chemicals that the foods absorb. So EWG.org is a place that I would go for that one. Let's see, we had, did I see something?
That was the same question.
Oh, that was the same question about shower filters. So
the update is basically that we have moved to San Jose, which is the city, the nearby city, not to be in a jungle, because there's little access to good facilities.
Yeah, we're about 3.5 hours from good quality healthcare where we live, and that's not acceptable when you're going to have a baby. Our plan is to have a home birth. My personal experience in the 1980s, we had 2 home births in Chicago, both uneventful, and at the time Chicago was an epicenter for that. And the first one was in my dorm room, when we lived on campus. And then the second was in our home 3 years later, but they were uneventful. And, the OB-GYN just came and sat in the rocking chair that we had and was reading some of my textbooks and said, no, you're doing fine. And it just really didn't do much of anything, but we're very grateful that he was there, right? Now, give it 40 years later, we have 2 midwives, and that's always a great idea to have 2, because as they grow their business, they may have 2 births at the same time, as they have more clients, and so they can't be in 2 places at one time. So we have 2 midwives, 2 doulas, a pelvic floor therapist, a hypnotherapist, that's it, obstetrician, an OB-GYN, and a pediatrician. And we interviewed our OB-GYNs. We've interviewed 2, and both of them had good reputations, but we were looking for one that felt the more we felt. And we found this guy whose questions to Marzi were so respectful of Marzi. And he said, well, what is your opinion, Mrs. O'Brien, on if necessary, if there's a substantial amount of pain, what would your opinion be about a walking epidural? I'd never heard of a walking epidural. And what it is they use less medication, just enough to numb down the pain, take the edge off, but the woman can still walk, that she's not immobilized and numb from the hips down. And so that's a very considerate, that's an indicator of someone who's really considerate. And he had a number of questions like that for us, and we just looked at each other and said, we like this guy. We like him, and he's done hundreds of births and very experienced and very well known in the field in the area.
So what was important for us, for moms to be, is let's say if the baby is born by C-section, they allow 1 uninterrupted hour with the baby. So the baby is put on the mom's chest, no matter if it's a C-section or not. And they don't take away the baby. They don't cut the cord right away. They wait for the cord to stop pulsing. So all the blood, like you've seen the emails, if you've seen the email today, if the cord is cut right away, you deplete the baby of 60% of its own blood.
Up to 60% of its own blood.
Yeah.
Why would you ever clamp off the cord of the blood going from mom to baby,
From the placenta.
from the placenta, that baby is still getting nourishment.
And oxygen, which is very important because they've never breathed the air yet.
Right, right. Our friend Dr. Zach Bush did a really nice interview in April or May where he talked about the birth process and what it's like for a baby coming out. And so our OB-GYN is of the opinion that not to cut the cord right away, put baby on mom's chest, not up at the breast, put baby on mom's tummy, and just to be nourished and held, and baby will do the breast crawl. And if you go on YouTube, you can see these videos of it. Marzi showed me one where the baby just naturally is going to try and get up to where the milk is, where the food is, right? And so, and by allowing baby to do that, I would suspect that you're setting the pattern for baby to go after what he wants in his life, right? As opposed to just being a breast in the face, let's do a little work here.
I'm sure it's fascinating.
You have some scent, some aspect of nature that's pulling you to say, hey, food, 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 food. And so, we're like stimulating baby to come out into this world now by setting baby up for the breast crawl. And this OB-GYN knew about that. He said, yes, that's a fine idea.
Well, they do it already, but we've asked something that the previous OB-GYN didn't have an answer for us. We asked if we had to have C-section, do they practice the vaginal seeding?
Right.
And this one isn't born, but you can tell more about what it is.
Yeah. We know, and I would assume that almost all of you have heard us talking about the critical importance of the microbiome in life, right? That if there's only one thing you're going to work on to be healthy, it's your microbiome. The diversity and the strength of the microbiome has a tremendous influence on your entire life. 37% of all the small molecules in the bloodstream are the metabolites of the microbiome in your gut. 1/3 of everything in your bloodstream is messages going from the microbiome in your gut to your brain, to your heart, determining your heart rhythm, to your kidneys, to your liver, to every organ of your body. These metabolites are going to every organ of your body. So the health of the microbiome is critically important. And when you have too many of the bad guys in your microbiome, the messages you are getting turn on inflammation. That those messengers, the exhausts, the metabolites of the microbiome, if it's a abnormal microbiome, that's called dysbiosis, D-Y-S, dysbiosis, those messages are messages of inflammation. And if your genetic vulnerability is to brain dysfunction, you have a history of dementia in your family, and that may be a genetic vulnerability you have, those messages go to the brain and activate inflammation in your brain. Or if you have a history of cardiovascular disease, it goes to your blood vessels and to your heart. If you have a history of diabetes, it goes to your pancreas. But those messengers are coming from the microbiota in the gut. And we now know that the platform, the paradigm, the way the microbiome is in life is primarily determined by 2.5 to 3 years old. What happens in the first few years of baby's life determines the microbiome for the rest of their life. Now you can change it, but the docking stations, the foundations that are set up in that first 2.5 to 3 years is the comfort microbiome that baby's going to produce and encourage to grow. And we know this. And so it's very important to us, the environment of baby's microbiome. And although baby's microbiome is beginning to develop in utero, as the fetus is growing and developing, the microbiome begins to develop. The primary input for a baby in natural childbirth is coming down the vaginal canal. That in the 8th month of pregnancy, the microbiome of the vagina completely changes, completely, without mom doing anything. It just changes naturally. And one species, for example, called Prevotella, not very much of it in the vaginal microbiome, but in the 8th month of pregnancy, it becomes the dominant one. Why? Because when baby's born, baby comes down the vaginal canal. And if you've seen pictures of babies when they're born, they come out, they're all slimy, they got all this crud on them.
Vernix.
What?
Vernix.
Vernix. That is the microbiome of the vaginal canal inoculating the baby's skin, inoculating the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, just everywhere. But if for some reason there's a medical emergency and you have to do a C-section, and if there's an emergency, you do what you have to, right? But in that case, baby doesn't come down the vaginal canal, baby misses that first critical inoculation. So there's something called vaginal seeding. And what that is that the OB-GYN or a nurse or a midwife during the birth process takes sterile gauze pads and puts them up in the vagina.
First, they put some kind of liquid on it.
Yeah, they put a little sterile solution, saline solution, and they put some gauze pads in the vagina and take them out. And then when baby's born, you just wipe the baby down with these gauze pads that you're trying to get as much of that vaginal microbiome in baby's surface area as possible. And so we asked the OB-GYN about that. He said, yes, of course we do that. And I thought it was sponges. I'd seen some of the earlier studies referring to sponges. He said, no, we use sterile gauze pads. They work much better. He folds them like a fan, like a Japanese fan. He folds them like that. And so he explained a little of how they do it. We thought, oh, great, this guy knows what he's doing. That made us feel a little more comfortable in case there's an emergency. And one more thing about in case of an emergency and working with our hypnotherapists is that, and Marzi doing her own research, we put together the list. If we have to go to the hospital, what do you want to bring with you? What do you need, right? Because it's going to be a last minute decision to do that in a time of stress. It's okay, we've got to do this now. Here's the reason why. And if our midwives tell us, or if one of our experts tell us, here's the reason, okay, if we decide we're going to the hospital, what do you want to bring? So there's a checklist, like clean clothes for Marzi, like diapers afterwards, and clothes for the baby, nipple cream, potato chips, cigars, the essentials, right? But so I bought a backpack, and the backpack is stuffed with everything that hopefully we aren't going to use. But if so, we're not scrambling at the last minute. We just grab the pack, get in the car, and we're out of here, right? And if we don't go to the hospital and we need the nipple balm cream, we just take it out of the backpack. So it's right here with us, right? But so it's packed. That's what we're doing today. I was out making runs today for that. And
Tom is in charge.
And
that's why it's so important.
Yeah.
It needs to be on Facebook Live.
Well, I'm not.
Forget the rest, about hundreds of stuff I had to collect.
Yeah.
For the backpack.
I'm talking about the backpack here. But the backpack is ready. Hopefully we don't need it, but it's ready. And it gives a sense of comfort to know that I was a scout, and so being prepared, right? It's nice to be prepared. Yeah. Your turn.
And we also have very conscious pediatrician who can come to the home birth, and all of our team, thankfully and gratefully, are on the same page. Yeah. So we are super grateful that we don't have to convince anyone or cringe when we hear any answers, or what's the word when you have to find the middle ground? Negotiate, and when you have to compromise. We don't feel like we have to compromise anything. So that's the most important thing because we can just focus now on the process and we are here. I'm nesting. I'm currently doing second wash of the cloth diapers I bought yesterday. So it's fun. We're trying to stay in a good mood.
We bought baby clothes and we've received some gifts of baby clothes. And so most of you know that new clothing is always soaked in preservatives. So we're washing them, second washing today to minimize the amount of these kinds of chemicals that babies exposed to.
And we found a company here in Costa Rica that produces non-toxic detergents. So basically,
there's a message that says from someone, Jocelyn, that it's hard to understand. Marzi, please, I'm hearing impaired. Please talk a bit louder.
Okay, I probably need the subtitles as well, Jocelyn. That's just my Polish accent, I suppose. We found company who produces non-toxic detergents. So let's say we are here in an apartment. We have boxes and boxes of different types of detergents that are non-toxic. The cleaners have been advised not to use anything else, nothing but scents, because I'm very sensitive. So the wash, we have special soap for the baby clothes, and we have great P2P probiotics that we add for instead of the fabric softener. So that's also our way of trying to inoculate the good bacteria on our bed sheets and on the baby's clothes, right?
Yes, the environment that you live in has a strong contribution to the microbiome of your skin and the microbiome of your gut. They did one study where they took 10 people, they ran stool analysis on these people to see what kind of microbiomes they had, and then they put them in 10 hotel rooms overnight. The next day, the researchers came in and just swabbed the surfaces and then analyzed the bacteria in the room, and they could tell 10 out of 10, they successfully identified which person, stool analysis, was the person that stayed in that room by wiping down the room. And because we leave our signature from our own unique microbiome in the room around us. And so we're here, we rented a condo here in town. We rented a house, a really nice house to begin with, and had a nice backyard, very large house, 4 bedrooms or something. We didn't need that, but it was the size and it was available. And it's a house that rents out for home births. So the energy was really nice and we were excited. And I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, the angels are here and all of that. And when we moved in, we realized that the day we went to look at the house, all the doors were open, all the windows were open. It was a beautiful sunny Costa Rican day. And when we came back and after we were moved in, we realized there was mold in the house. And within 2 days, 1 day to 2 days, we're coughing. Marzi's all congested. I said, we're out of here. We are out of here. And so Marzi worked with a local person and found us this really nice 2-bedroom condo that's large and clean, and we don't have to worry about any of that anymore. And this will suit our purposes really well for the birth, and we'll stay here for a couple of weeks afterwards. So, but you don't put up with something that's not right, right? I mean, you may have to take a day or two to modify, but you get out of there. Don't be in environments that are not healthy for you. And I'm not going to put our newborn son in an environment that has lots of mold spores in it, because it can have a lifelong effect on someone.
And we also ordered the air ductor filtration right away.
Right.
So we're still
Right.
waiting, should come any day, but that was also important for us to minimize the toxins. So even here is okay, but we just want to make sure that the air is the purest quality because it is a city, right?
Yeah, it's a city, and I close the doors because of the traffic, and you can hear planes.
Right.
And so, Judy says hi from Warrnambool, Australia. Lena's here from Canada. Lois is here from Ontario. Sherry's in Oklahoma. Clyde's in Canada. Omar says it's 1:15 a.m. Thank you, Omar. Thank you so much for staying up. Donna says prayers for a healthy baby, safe delivery. Jocelyn says, hey, Dr. Tom and Marzi, blessings to you and your precious baby. Thank you. Thank you. Bert's here from Richland. Clyde's here praying for you all. Thank you so much. Shanquilo says, hi, any advice for herpes simplex 1 and HHV 6, herpes 6 on Neurozoomer Plus, natural antivirals? Thank you. What you have to do is identify why is your immune system compromised, allowing a virus to get such a strong hold. You don't just take natural antivirals, you have to explore where is your immune system's energy being allocated, or is your immune system already compromised from years of fighting something? As an example, if you have a sensitivity to wheat, but it doesn't make you sick, but you're making antibodies to wheat or dairy or soy or corn or whatever it should be, then a high percentage of your energy is going to fighting this food that you're eating every day or every few days. And then the amount of energy your body has to fight a virus, because we're all exposed to these viruses, how come your body isn't strong enough to fight the virus? That's the way that I would look at that, Shanquilo. Good for you for doing the tests, and good for you for starting to explore what do I have to do. I recommend that you work with a practitioner who's knowledgeable about these tests, like, well, our team. Michelle and I just did the training for the laboratory. They hosted an event recently, and Michelle and I did the training for all the doctors. So Michelle is extremely knowledgeable about this, as is our entire team. This comment will house all the products and links. Oh, good. Okay, so we've posted in the comment the links that we've talked about already. Jocelyn says, hard to understand, Marzi. Okay, that was that same one. Thank you. Jerry's here. Hey, Jerry. Thanks for being here, man. As a friend of mine, Jerry Stein in Indiana. Chris Lennis is here. I'm assuming that's Chris Lennis, of my family, the son or daughter, sorry, Chris, I don't think we've met, of the Lennis clan, my cousins, the Lennis clan. But hi, Chris. Thank you for being here. Okay, Trish says she's struggling to hear us all, so we'll make sure that we project a little bit more.
I don't think you have to project.
Okay, well, maybe.
Thank you for being kind.
I'm being kind,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Right. You want to take over? Want to say something?
I don't know. There's not many pregnancy questions for me, so I don't know. Let me see. What else do we have? Does leaky gut matter or mold?
Sean Quinn was asking, does leaky gut matter or mold? They both matter dramatically. When you have a leaky gut, and by the way, whether we get sick or we feel symptoms or not, every person who eats wheat develops intestinal permeability, every person. That's well known now. There are a number of studies on that. And when you have intestinal permeability, this leaky gut, larger molecules get through the leaky gut that should not get through. Larger molecules, they're called macromolecules. And your brain says, what's this? Wait a minute. I can't make new cells out of this. I can't make new muscle cells or bone cells. I better fight this. Then you make antibodies to fight tomatoes or chicken or beef or carrots or apples. It doesn't matter what the food is. If you have a leaky gut, if you came back positive for a leaky gut, absolutely, your immune system is active fighting those macromolecules, Shanquilo, and you have to deal with that. And mold, same thing. Mold is here's the way to think about mold. Sometimes when you're going to start a charcoal fire for a barbecue, you squirt charcoal lighter fluid in there and you light a match and you throw the match on. Sometimes it doesn't catch. So what do? You have to light another match, lay it down on the coals and angle the match so it's up, so the flame keeps going. And so you lay it at an angle and the flame's going. And then you take the charcoal lighter fluid, you squirt the charcoals, but you don't squirt the flame because the flame will go out. You have to squirt around the flame on the coals so that the spray of the squirt catches a couple of flames and then it will ignite. Most people that do charcoal fires have had that experience in the past. Now imagine if instead of charcoal lighter fluid, you poured gasoline on there and then threw a match on it. That's mold. That's mold in your body. That's what mold does. Your immune system ramps up dramatically to try to protect you. So if you have elevated antibodies to a few different viruses and you have mold, absolutely, that's a strong component contributing to your immune system being too weak to keep the virus in check. Because you'll never get rid of the virus. As far as I know, we never get rid of these viruses. But when they ramp up, it's because your immune system was compromised one way or another. Okay.
Very cool.
Sherry said, I had my 4 children at home and I'm so happy that more people are trying home births. Thank you, Sherry. Yes. It's startling for us to see that here in Costa Rica, the C-section rate was in private hospitals is over 80%. It's like, what? And it's a convenience factor for the doctors and the hospital that they've got a schedule, you know, as opposed to letting Mother Nature take its course. We just had a session this morning with our therapist, our hypnotherapist, talking about, you know, there's no time here, you know, baby will come when baby is ready, and just being calm and relaxed about that as opposed to being on a schedule. Now, we were told that sometimes in a first pregnancy, babies can be 8 days late, right? And if that's the case, he'll come on my birthday, which would be really unique. And that would be a really, Marzi will have to bake double layer cakes every year, right?
And the boy will be like,
No. It'll be his day. It'll be his day. Jenny says, oh, I wish I would have known about 10 years ago about this 10 years ago for my daughter. She was a C-section and had antibiotics the first year in life. Well, if you had known, things would have been different, you know, but you know, you do the best you can. And now that you understand, your daughter may need to focus a little on making sure she has as robust and diverse a microbiome as possible.
I am a C-section baby, so I know what that means. I've been through asthma and allergies. Asthma basically.
A little stronger.
That's something in my teeth.
I do.
Want to tell you, but now I'm going to tell you.
I tell her to talk louder, and she says, I got something on my teeth.
I went through all the basically book examples of C-section child, colicky, picky eater, asthmatic, frequent colds, on a spectrum, almost autism at some point. So I know what does it mean. And when I was 30, I want to say 6, I got really bad kidney infection, and the doctor that checked my urine said that that's the bacteria that I got from maybe nurses' hands or the air in the hospital when I was born by C-section. He could tell this by the actual urine test result.
Yeah.
And this bacteria was dormant in my body and then basically attacked my kidneys.
May I stay on that point for a minute? So what that means is that being a C-section baby, we know this now, the studies are really clear. C-section babies have a different microbiome. Natural childbirth babies have a microbiome very similar to their mothers. The mother passes on the microbiome to the child. So it's very similar after birth. C-section babies have a microbiome that predominantly is the bacteria in the hospital room, not inside mom and mom's vagina, but rather the hospital room bacteria, which is not good bacteria, not good bacteria. Now, interestingly, they're doing a number of studies showing that when they introduce good bacteria in the air, in the hospital rooms, the infection rate goes way down, way down. And that's the whole premise of P2P, the probiotic company that we really like, and we're using their products now quite a bit. So Marzi, being a C-section baby, had this bacteria of the hospital room in her body at birth. And it just stayed there as a dominant species, but not enough to make her sick. But 30 some years later, she has an overgrowth of this bacteria in her kidneys, causing her infection. And the doctor identified it in a simple urine test when they ran a culture.
That was a doctor from Enceladus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Dan,
Dan, yes.
yeah. What's Dan's last? I don't know Dan's last name now.
So we bought also probiotics for the baby, just in case if he would be born prematurely, which he will not, because we are pretty much full term. But we have them, and we're gonna give it to him because it's never too much of a good bacteria.
Right,
basically.
right. Carol Bertie Audie Grosser is watching. Hey, Carol, it's my cousin Carol. Hi, Carol. Thanks for being here. Ruth is here from New Jersey. Lynn says hello from Iowa. Catherine says, make sure you get revised ASAP. You ask lip tongue tie and lip buckles shortly after birth if they say there aren't any second, third, fourth opinions and have pediatric dentists. Okay, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding that, what you're referring to, Catherine. We'll pass on that one for now.
Oh,
Emily's here.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I forgot to acknowledge Emily.
I just took your prenatals right there.
Yeah, Emily Rydbaum. She and her parents have growbabyhealth.com, and it is a wonderful site for a woman to learn more information about food selections and nutrients during pregnancy. And Marzi had a couple of consultations with Emily early on, one for the second pregnancy after our loss, because I didn't want to miss anything, and I don't know this very well. And so we had great conversations, and Marzi was, Emily, it almost brings me to tears. Marzi was so much more comfortable after talking to you and feeling confident. And we're very grateful. And growbabyhealth.com is a wonderful site. Her parents are good friends of mine. They've delivered over 5,000 babies. Emily was born and raised in this world of baby culture. And so as Marzi just showed, we're using Emily's vitamins during the pregnancy. So thanks for being here, Emily.
Yes. There's a question from Ruth. Could you please comment on precautions for couple who husband has MS, get pregnant or not? What to safeguard against?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Thank you, Ruth. If your husband has MS, an autoimmune disease, there's very, very high likelihood that there is some level of dysbiosis, meaning the microbiome of the gut is out of balance. We know that there are 5 factors in the development of autoimmune diseases, practically all of them. First, the genetics. You carry the gene, you can't do anything about that. Next is the environmental triggers that turn the genes on for inflammation. Next is an altered microbiome from the environmental triggers you've been exposed to over a lifetime, like chlorine and fluoride and so many different chemicals. And that altered microbiome creates inflammation in the gut, and you get intestinal permeability, or the leaky gut. And then the last one is the macromolecules that go into the bloodstream. And then your immune system, trying to protect you, attacks those macromolecules, and you get systemic inflammation. With autoimmune diseases, we know that very commonly the antibodies that are attacking the macromolecules in your bloodstream because of the other factors, and then you got these big molecules that got through the leaky gut into the bloodstream. The antibodies that are going after gluten, for example, or going after dairy, for example, antibodies, your blood is just a highway, right? And the highway, everything's going in the same direction, but there's no lanes of traffic. There are no lanes, and so everything's bouncing into each other all the time. So how do the antibodies fire a chemical bullet that goes directly at whatever the molecule is that they've been told to go after, like dairy or gluten? How do they do that? They look for an orange vest. I call it an orange vest, but it's a protein signature. So they look for this protein signature and they grab on to that protein signature, and then they just fire these bullets into that macromolecule to destroy it. So let's say the protein signature is AABCD. So the antibodies are going through the bloodstream looking for dairy, AABCD, AAB. Oh, look over there. And they grab a hold and boom, they fire their bullet to go after AABCD. Well, AABCD from dairy happens to be a part of the protein signature of myelin, the saran wrap that covers your nerves. And MS is when you're losing the saran wrap around your nerves, you're losing the myelin. So if you have antibodies to dairy or to gluten also, other AABCD proteins in myelin, the antibodies going after the dairy can begin attacking your myelin. Or the antibodies going after gluten can begin attacking your myelin. And when you kill off enough myelin, what happens when you kill off myelin? You're killing off the insulation around your nerves. The wire that goes from the battery of the car to the headlight of the car has a lot of insulation on that wire. What happens if you scrape away or cut off some of the insulation, but the wire's okay, but you scrape away the insulation and then the exposed wire touches the frame of the car? The lights flicker on and off. What's wrong with the lights? There's nothing wrong with the lights. It's the insulation is gone from the wire and the wire is shorting out. Your nerves short out. That's MS. So the question is how do I treat MS? The question is, why do I have MS? And that's when you read my book, The Autoimmune Fix. You work with our team, Michelle or one of our other team members, or you find another functional medicine practitioner. That's how you approach a diagnosis of MS. So your question about should we get pregnant, I'm assuming the flavor of the question is around, will this affect our baby? The one thing you want to do before getting pregnant is do everything you can to create a balanced microbiome, because dads pass on their genetics, but also I think some of their microbiome. There's not much evidence of that, of dad passing on the microbiome. This is something I think, but I don't think there's much evidence. But we know children of celiac mothers weigh 222 grams below the average birth weight. Children of celiac fathers weigh 266 grams below the average birth weight. So there's something about dad's sperm that's carrying a message into these kids. It may be the genetics, number 1 of 5, so that dad's passing on the genetic vulnerability to wheat. That may be it, but baby growing in utero, unless mom's eating wheat, and that may be suppressing some of it. So baby may be more sensitive because of dad's genetics. But if this were our family and I had an autoimmune disease and we wanted to have a baby, the one thing that I would make sure of is that I've got a good, healthy, diverse microbiome. And that'll take you 3 to 6 months to create, minimum 3 to 6 months.
And the sperm production, if I remember correctly, the sperm production takes 63 days. So you need to add this 63 days on top of that, from when you're starting detox to have the effects in the sperm.
I didn't know that. That's great to know.
Yeah, well, let's see what else is
Okay.
here. There's some off topic about the doctor, cancer doctor.
Many months ago, you mentioned a cancer specialist in Los Angeles or San Diego area. Can you repost that referral? Needed to refer to clients. Okay. I'll look that up while Marzi's reading the next question.
Donna is saying, I get indigestion. Sometimes I get bloated and have gas, and I'm never sure what foods I'm eating that is causing this. Do I have leaky gut?
The only way to know that for sure, Donna, is to do the test. It's test, don't guess. And the test of choice is called the Wheat Zoomer because it includes the most comprehensive markers for intestinal permeability in that test. It's the most sensitive and most comprehensive test I know of for leaky gut. And the practitioner that I talked about is our friend Dr. Nalini Chilkov, Chilkov. And her email address is, her homepage is nalinichilkov.com. NALINICHILKOV, nalinichilkov.com. She is brilliant in supportive care during while you're fighting cancer and afterwards. So she knows about chemo and what will minimize the effects of chemo, radiation, things like that.
Priscilla is asking, is there a blood test for mold?
A blood, yeah, sure there is. There's two tests that we recommend. They're both on our website. One is a urine test from Great Plains that looks at exhaust of mold, the metabolites of mold. That's a really good test. The second is the fungal, is it the yeast profile or the yeast zoomer or the fungal zoomer?
It's gonna be posted.
I forget which one it's called, but that includes a number of markers of mold looking for antibodies to mold and yeast and fungi. So there's a urine test and a blood test both, and we'll post them both here.
Right. Jenny is asking what probiotics for kids. The ones we are going to use are called Evivo.
Evivo, EVIVO.
Yes.
There have a number of studies for infants that they're a primary and preliminary probiotic that's dominant in infants. And I'm sure that Emily Rybohm will have more information on that. Her website, once again, is growbabyhealth.com. Growbabyhealth.com.
Shanquilla is asking, does Megaspore bind mold?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Luan is asking, did you pick out names? We did, but we're not going to reveal them yet.
Yes, right.
We have one name.
Luann asked, what can we do for Bell's palsy? My sister has it. Well, the first thing I would do, Luann, is the NeuroZoomer Plus to get the biomarkers of where's their inflammation in the brain. What type of inflammation is in the brain? And Bell's palsy patient can have 20, 25 different markers positive in the brain, and it's overwhelming, but you just start dealing with them. And in 6 months, you check again, and you're maybe 30% better, maybe 80% better, but you retest in 6 months, not before, but about 6 months. And now you find that you have 4 still elevated. And if you didn't do the test to begin with, and you do the test in 6 months because you're not well yet, you're better, but not well, and you have 4 elevated, you say, oh, everything I've done hasn't worked. No, it's working really well. You just got to stay with it longer, right?
Jenny's saying, so C-section kids would benefit from Evico. You know what's Evico?
Evivo, EVIVO is the probiotic we're talking about, but it's for infants. C-section kids, the first thing I would do is do a stool analysis, do a comprehensive stool analysis to see what's their microbiome look like right now. Because it may be that you're going to identify a whole bunch of bad guys there that haven't gotten dominant enough yet to create disease. But if you identify this is out of balance, then you might develop a 6-month, 1-year, 2-year program to move that microbiome in a healthier direction. But you never know unless you test. And so work with a practitioner, our team or others that know about that type of thing.
And Ruth is asking, can you get a wheat zoomer from the average traditional doctor?
The average traditional doctor doesn't have a clue. And the test that they're doing to look for gluten looks for 1 antibody. Sometimes if their lab offers it, they'll use a test that looks for 2 or 3 antibodies. But they're looking for celiac disease, and they're looking for 1 antibody to wheat. The wheat zoomer looks at 26 different antibodies to wheat, including for celiac disease. Because you may not have that one marker that the traditional doctor looks for. The most common marker, all the labs look for alpha gliadin. That's the one that they've been looking at for since 1996, a long, long time. But doctors are still doing that test thinking that it's comprehensive. It's not comprehensive at all. Well, there's no science, there's no evidence. Of course, there's hundreds of studies. You just haven't read them. I don't have much patience for these guys that say to me, there's no science. I say, sometimes you say, really? Really? You have the audacity to say that? I've done that a few times. You have the audacity to say that? How about saying, I haven't seen the science? And then I'll be happy to send it to you. Give me your card, right? But excuse me. But so for your child, the section was about C-section kids. Find out what their microbiome is like now. Don't just shotgun. What you do shotgun are the foods. Everyone needs to develop the lifestyle, if you've heard me talk before, where we're eating root vegetables every day, alternating root vegetables, 2 other prebiotics every day, fermented vegetables every day, and applesauce, homemade applesauce every day. Just a little bit of each of these, but you're inoculating every day with foods that support a healthy microbiome. And I've never asked you this, but have you thought in your cooking specifically about adding like root vegetables when you think about what to make? Because we have them all the time. I'm just wondering if you consciously think about it, and when you're choosing what to make. They couldn't hear you.
Yes. Oh, that's a long question.
My 31-year-old son and I have both been diagnosed with polycythemia vera and essential thrombocytopenia, blood cancer. We've lived on a golf course, had a major mold remediation in our home, and lived very near Monsanto in the Ohio Valley. Assuming our cancer is from environmental toxins, that's a safe assumption. Western doctors all prescribe a daily baby aspirin and chemo pills forever. What do you suggest as our next step? Lori, you really need to work with a senior practitioner who knows how to evaluate how your body is functioning right now and giving you recommendations like eat root vegetables every day, eat 2 other prebiotics every day, eat a tablespoon of fermented vegetables every day, make your own applesauce so you increase intestinal alkaline phosphatase every day. There's just a bunch of things on the checklist, and we have to find out, how toxic are you? First thing I do is Cyrex, I think it's array number 11 for chemical toxicity. It's either 11 or 12. I want to see how many chemicals are in your body, which ones, and then how do we get these out of there? I'd want to know why this cancer came while you are doing the therapies that are being recommended to you, of course. But I'd also talk to Dr. Nalini Chilkov that I spoke of earlier, say, this is what's being recommended for our cancer. What do you suggest with this? But I'd want the investigation to find out what's going on in my body right now. Where is this coming from? Yes, the golf course can do it all by itself. Do you ever see dandelions on a golf course? You never see dandelion flowers on a golf course. Why? Because those grasses are soaked in chemicals, insecticides, and pesticides. Soaked. And when you're walking on that golf course, you get it on your shoes, and guys and women are tying their shoes. Now it's on their hands. They accumulate this stuff in their bodies. If you live on a golf course, you're breathing minute amounts of those toxins all the time. If you have to stay in that environment, I'd get air filtration systems in your house and keep the windows closed and filter the air. I mean, you have to start recognizing we're being exposed to some environmental trigger here, and then start dealing to reduce that environmental trigger.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, really? Wow. Wow. Is there anything you want to say?
I had something on mind, but
Okay, Marcy said I can repeat what she just said because you didn't hear her. that she had something on her mind, but she forgot. We call that pregnancy brain. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, I hope this has been of value for you. I hope it's given you some food for thought. Thank you very much for joining us and celebrating this journey with us. We're showing the belly, the Buddha belly.
I'm sitting on a pregnancy ball already. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a big belly now.
And here's an example of how Marzi takes care of herself and does the unusual during pregnancy. This is what she sits on. She's sitting on this ball because it's so much easier on her back and her hips. And it's like a $30 ball. I mean, you just buy it in the exercise store and you blow it up. It's easy, but it's very comfortable and it feels great.
Also helps the baby to get in the best position on the pelvis. So that's the main reason.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, let's talk about that for a minute. That's one of the things that Marzi had some awareness on most every day is the position of the baby. The baby's supposed to be head down by now. And
It is.
it is. In the last couple months, we've been, Marzi has been doing this exercise where she's on a sofa, her knees on a sofa. She puts her hands down on the floor, so she's angling down, and she like bends her elbows, or elbows or forearms are resting on the floor, and just holds that position so that the boy gets in the right position. And she's been doing that once.
And also, it relaxes the ligaments down in the belly.
It relaxes the ligaments in the belly, for those that couldn't hear that. And she's been doing that once or twice a day. So now we know the boy is in perfect position because he's dropping down. His head is dropping down a little lower, and Marzi's feeling those hips open up. So there's some ligament shots of pain, discomfort, things like that.
Penguin waddle.
The penguin waddle, right. So he's getting ready. All three of us are getting ready for this. And maybe next week we'll have an announcement. I don't know. But at this point, I plan on being here next week. Look forward to seeing you then. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful week. And if we don't see you next week, happy holidays to you. And we hope you have a most blessed holiday.
It's great to be with you.
Bye.